Topic 2. We're going to talk about the Padres and their managerial search. It just keeps evolving.
Well, it's evolving. It's been delayed a little bit because of the general managers' meetings in Scottsdale. I am of the opinion there is a new candidate at the top of the list. That guy, David Ross, longtime Dodger catcher, finished up in Atlanta, then with the Cubs, got into front office work, named the Cubs manager. He spent 4 years managing in the midst of rebuilding. And then he got bounced out overnight so they could hire Craig Counsell for the record-setting contract. I think David Ross wants to manage. David Ross is pushing. He is demanding. He brings clubhouses together. Most people of the opinion he did a pretty good job in a wretched situation as Cubs ownership was getting rid of a lot of high-priced players, and the ones he had all got hurt. He was shocked that he was let go. Most baseball insiders, I think, were a little bit surprised that Milwaukee rated the other guy in the division and the Cubs rated the other guy in the division, Milwaukee, and hired Craig Counsell. I think David Ross knows about rebuilding. There's no doubt that he knows how to bring a clubhouse together. He was a leader as a player in the Dodger clubhouse, and he was a backup catcher. You still got Mike Shildt, but there's been no movement. You did talk to Ryan Flaherty, but there's no experience. And a surprise interview was Ruben Nieblo, highly regarded pitching coach, Cleveland. Most people think he did a good job with the Padres. So those right now seem to be the final 4 on A.J. Preller's list. I think all of a sudden David Ross moves to the top of that list because he's a younger version who knows about analytics, knows about today's modern-day ball player, a little bit different than the experience that Mike Shildt had in St. Louis. Thoughts?
He's an interesting guy. It's kind of like the Stephen Vogt going over to the Guardians because he was a player and then suddenly he was a manager, so maybe he has some of that street cred with some of his players. But I thought the Cubs overachieved last year. I didn't expect them to be contending for a playoff spot.
And that was with Marcus Stroman breaking down at the All-Star break and got nothing out of him the second half. And with Kyle Hendricks having missed half the season coming off his surgeries.
Yeah. And then I didn't think Bellinger was going to have this huge bounce back season either. But I heard the Padres are also talking to Phil Nevin today.
Well, they could talk, but I think he'd probably be at the back end of the list. Maybe he comes in as somebody's coach. I think Dave Ross, to me, there's the word you use, street cred. I mean, I met him when he was with the Dodgers, and I tracked him. I talked to him a couple of times. I was pretty impressed. The Cubs obviously were pretty impressed because they hired him instantly as their manager. He's cut from a different cloth. He's a different guy, but boy, he's a baseball intellect and a motivator, etc. If I were king, I think I'd hire David Ross rather than Mike Shildt. But obviously Shildt had 3 winning seasons in St. Louis. Okay.